I'm Theo Varn. I document the measurable protocols for entering high-performance brain states. In the last video, I tested my brain state before a major decision. The result was clear enough that I wanted to push it further. So I ran a 30-day experiment. Same protocol, same measurement, every day. What I expected was consistent high performance. What I found was something completely different. Every morning I measured my HRV, a signal of how ready my nervous system was for high-level thinking. Then I ran a coherent session and tracked how I actually performed. Let me be specific about the tracking because this matters. 2-minute resting HRV reading, before coffee, before the phone, before anything. I logged the number. I noted what happened the night before: sleep quality, stress level, whether I'd exercised. Then I tracked the work session that followed, how fast I got into focus, how many times I switched tasks, how decisive my thinking felt, and the quality of what I produced. 30 days, 30 readings, no gaps. I also want to be clear about what HRV is and isn't, because there's a lot of noise around this metric. HRV is not a performance score. It doesn't tell you how smart you are today. What it tells you is the state your nervous system is in. Specifically, how much your parasympathetic system is active versus your sympathetic system. Parasympathetic dominant. Your prefrontal cortex has full resource access. Complex thinking, nuanced decisions, deep focus, all available. Sympathetic dominant. Your brain has shifted toward reactive processing. It's threat scanning. Sustained attention becomes expensive. That's the signal I was tracking every day for a month. The first week was inconsistent. Some days were clear, others felt slightly off. Not dramatic, just slower decisions, more second-guessing. But what I noticed in the data was that the variation wasn't random. It tracked almost exactly to the night before. Late night, HRV dropped. High-stress afternoon, HRV dropped the next morning. Good sleep, no alcohol, light evening, HRV held or climbed. The first thing this showed me, your morning state is largely set the evening before. Most performance advice focuses on your morning routine. The data suggested the real leverage is your evening one. By the end of week 1, I had 7 data points and no clear trend. Just a volatile line that seemed to follow my inputs more than my intentions. I hadn't expected that level of sensitivity. Small changes in sleep or stress were showing up in the HRV reading with almost no lag. By week 2 and 3, a pattern started showing up. On high coherence days, my thinking was faster, cleaner, more decisive. On lower days, everything felt just a bit harder. Here's what that looked like in practice, because I want to be specific, not just descriptive. On a high HRV morning, I'd sit down to work and be inside the problem within 10 minutes. No warm-up lap. No low-value task to ease into it. Direct entry into the thing that mattered most. Decisions that normally required deliberation felt like they had obvious answers. I wasn't second-guessing, I was moving. On a low HRV morning, the first 20 to 30 minutes were fragmented. I'd start something, check something else, come back. Not because I was undisciplined, the intent was the same. The switching was happening almost below the level of choice. Like the brain was scanning for something easier before committing to something hard. The gap between those two experiences wasn't large on any given day, but it was completely consistent across the data set. And here's what made the pattern undeniable. The correlation wasn't between HRV and how hard I worked. It was between HRV and the quality of output per hour. On low-state days, I often worked longer. I produced less. That's not a discipline failure. That's a state problem being addressed with effort. And effort doesn't fix state. But here's what actually surprised me. It wasn't about how high I could push my state. It was about how stable it became. I expected the ceiling to matter, my best days, but what actually mattered was the floor. My worst days got significantly better. The low HRV mornings still happened. Bad sleep, high stress periods, those didn't disappear. But 2 things changed. First, the drop was smaller. My baseline had shifted upward, so even a suppressed reading was higher than it used to be. Second, and this is the more important change, I knew exactly what to do when it happened. Run a longer breathing window. Delay the highest stakes cognitive work by 30 to 60 minutes. Don't push against the state, work with the data. Most people have no protocol for a low-state day. They either force through it and produce poor work, or they write the day off entirely. Having a system gives you a third option: recalibrate, then deploy. That third option is where a lot of lost performance is hiding. The data showed something else I hadn't anticipated. Consistency mattered more than duration. A short daily session outperformed longer, inconsistent ones. Here's why that's physiologically true and not just a productivity cliché. The autonomic nervous system responds to predictable, repeated signals. When you run the same breathing protocol at the same time every morning, your nervous system starts to anticipate it. The parasympathetic response begins to initiate faster. Over weeks, your resting HRV baseline drifts upward, not because of any single session, but because of the accumulation of consistent input. Intensity doesn't drive that adaptation. Regularity does. By day 25, my morning readings were running consistently higher than week 1, not because the sessions were longer, but because I hadn't missed a day. The system was recalibrating toward a higher set point. That's the compounding effect, and it's completely invisible if you only look at single sessions. Most people try to perform better by pushing harder. More effort, more discipline, more time. But if your state is off, that effort works against you. Think about what that actually means. If your nervous system is running in sympathetic dominance, elevated stress response, suppressed prefrontal access, and you respond by adding more cognitive load, you're not solving the problem. You're taxing a depleted system at higher demand. Output per hour drops, recovery cost goes up, and you end the day feeling like you worked hard and got nowhere, which is accurate, but the cause isn't what you think it is. Discipline doesn't override physiology, it runs on top of it. The performers who sustain high output over years, not just good weeks, but compounding performance over time, are not the ones with the most willpower. They're the ones who've built the most reliable system for getting into the right state before they work. Willpower depletes, state management compounds. That's not a philosophy, that's what the data shows. This experiment changed how I think about performance. It's not effort first, it's state first. The goal isn't just to have great days, it's to make your baseline better, so that your average day is performing at the level your best days used to. That's a different game entirely. You're not grinding toward a ceiling, you're raising a floor. And because the floor compounds, because each consistent day recalibrates the baseline slightly upward, the gains don't plateau the way effort-based performance does. Effort has diminishing returns. Nervous system training has compounding returns. That distinction is what this 30 days made concrete for me. When your state is stable, everything else becomes easier to execute. Not because you're trying harder, because there's less internal resistance. After 30 days, the conclusion is simple. Performance is not effort applied. It's state quality multiplied by effort applied. Get the state right, and the effort you were already putting in starts producing different results. The full protocol is in the description. The 3-step pre-session system I ran every day for this experiment. The 30-day tracking template is in there too. That's the exact sheet I used to log HRV, inputs, and session quality across the month. If you want the full protocol, it's in the description. This is what I use before every important decision. Follow me for more videos on neuroscience, productivity, cognitive performance, consciousness, and human performance optimization.